Greetings, beautiful people. My name is Simon Javan Okelo. I am the host of the Madaraka Podcast and also the CEO and founder of Madaraka Festival. And we are here at the Seattle Drum School of Music in Georgetown, south of Seattle, Washington. And today, this really is one of the interviews I've been looking forward to, because without KZ, also known as Karen Zammit, we would have not been in this space where we are hosting the podcast. I feel that KZ is such an incredible human being. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm great.
Excellent.
Thank you,
excellent.
Simon.
Of course. So, as I was saying, it's really a privilege to sit down with you. I know how busy you are, and I value your time, and also I value your contribution to my growth, as a creative, as an artist here in Seattle, and also your contribution to the growth of Madaraka Festival and One Vibe Band. Your support has enabled us to have a space where we can rehearse consistently. You've helped us with mobilizing music instruments for our education, music and art program in Kenya. I can thank you for so many things, But, one of the things that I want us to begin our conversation with is just going back a little further and just exploring your story of how you ended up in Seattle. Not so many people in Seattle are Seattle natives, and so I want to begin exploring that,
Okay.
How did you end up in this part of the world,
For sure. I am not a Seattle native, although I have lived here longer than a lot of folks who are Seattle natives. I'm actually, my family's from New York. I grew up in the Twin Cities, which is Minneapolis, St. Paul, and did not have a privileged background, for sure. I spent some years in foster care, and after I became a young mother, that's when I migrated to Seattle because it was the promised land.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, definitely went and did my library research at that time. And, very little snow, good economy, good jobs, by the water, by the mountains, good school districts, low crime, all of the things that you kind of want on your checklist. So
Right.
moved here with an infant daughter, and actually found myself very quickly immersed in social justice organizing. First, because I was advocating for myself. I needed support as a single mom, and the one thing that I relied on was childcare subsidies, and they were being cut from the King County budget at that time. And so I created a movement and then got kind of adopted by a legacy social justice organizing group named LELO. And they've been around in Seattle since the 70s. They saw it as a workers' rights issue. And so I ended up hanging with that group and supporting all of their efforts for a good decade, and is a core part of who I am.
Right.
And I carry those values with me in all of my work. So my professional work has always been a different thing, two separate things. But the values are still the same. I make sure that wherever I'm putting my work efforts, that it's still benefiting the greater good, that
Right.
it's still benefiting a group of people.
Right. I love that. Yeah, you really exemplify what a community leader is, and we are also sitting in the space that is a piece of your work. For those who have never been to the Seattle Drum School of Music, can you just describe this space that we are sitting in for a moment, and describe your role and just the evolution of this space?
Sure. So I guess the background of the school is Seattle Drum School of Music is a family-owned entity, 38 years strong, still owned and managed by Steve and Christy Smith, who are both working music teachers. And it started with Steve just teaching drums, which is why it was named Seattle Drum School. But then he married, singer, songwriter, guitarist Christy, and hired all of their friends, and then their friends, and grew and grew and grew. And now we teach pretty much all of the things to all of the ages and all of the skill levels. The school actually has 2 locations. There was the original location for 25 plus years out in North Seattle. And unfortunately, because of zoning issues, they had to move to the now current Lake City location. But along the way, they also moved into this Georgetown, South Seattle location to be able to service a whole different population. South Seattle is historically, the census before the last one, the most diverse zip code in the entire country.
Oh, wow.
And so their vision was to be able to provide music lessons to the youth and population out in South Seattle, level up the playing field when it comes to high schools. And that's still a mission that's active today. The space that we are sitting in is a 75-person performance venue, fully loaded with a baby grand piano and drum set back here that used to belong to Alan White of the group Yes, which is kind of a classic old school American rock band. And we have live stream cameras, and the room was built out to sound great. So Seattle Drum School of Music has been in this historic building since 2007. The building itself is 115 years old and is part of historic Georgetown, one of the first neighborhoods to be built out in the Seattle area. It was a trade area to begin with. And there's some really interesting history to the building itself, but that's another conversation.
Right. I heard that it was a funeral home for a number of years, too.
Yeah, from the early 1900s until the 80s.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It provided the funerary services for the region.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of history. The ghosts are quiet now because we've activated the space.
Yeah, with music.
So the venue is called The Lab at 1010, and the reason for that name is that the original building that Seattle Drum School had in North Seattle had a performance and recording space. And I meet grown musicians today who tell me that that's the first place that they ever performed. And they called it The Lab, the little auditorium in the back. And so when I joined the school right when they were reopening after pandemic lockdown, they said, we're going to activate the space. And they renamed this performance space The Lab at 1010, because it still kind of is a little auditorium in the back. It's in the same building and attached to the school, and the at 1010 signifies that that's the address of the building.
Right.
So that's the name of the venue. And in the pursuit of activating the space, it's looked like a lot of different things. We have at this point hosted hundreds of all kinds of different events, mostly on a rental basis, some that we curate. So it's looked like a lot of different things, and that includes having you all here.
I love it. I definitely love being in this space, and all my guests, my band members, Sauti Soul have been here. Dre's, Anthony Cole, a lot of legendary artists have visited and rehearsed in this space. And this year, we are also hosting all the Madaraka Festival artists here for the rehearsals, and I really appreciate that.
Looking forward to it.
Huh?
Looking forward to it.
I know. So when you think about I interviewed Steve Smith a few weeks ago. That episode is yet to be published. But when you think about, running this space, the musicians, the community members, the children that you guys serve, what is it that gives you the greatest satisfaction?
I That's a good question. It's just really a mix of things. I mean, my desk area on the other side of the wall here, I have a gong
Yeah,
and a kalimba
yeah.
right next to me. I have a record player. I have a TV where I have a YouTube playlist of little clips and videos of things that I capture along the way, because I also manage the social media at this point. So it's a lot of different satisfiers. I really enjoy that we have a lot of returning events in the space in particular, and I know that it's because of the relationships that we've built with them, and that means that we're providing a good service that works for them.
Right.
I love it when, the parents let me know that, I'm a major part of the experience that they have when they come in to have their music lessons. So I know that I'm part of building a community, and that's my biggest satisfier.
I love that. My daughters definitely fight with me every time I tell them I'm coming to the drum school. They're like, I'm coming.
They're so sweet.
Yeah, man. So one of the things I love about you is that you're such an incredible connector. I feel like any problem I have, I call KZ, and KZ is like, okay, I'll introduce you to Amy. I'll introduce you to this person, and I feel like networking and collaborating is a value that many people overlook these days, especially in America, where we are taught to be individualistic. We are taught to to make a certain amount of money and be able to afford everything and live in our own zip code, in our own neighborhood. And I just wanted to hear you speak about the value of building a network, especially in a place where you didn't grow up. You're not born here. You moved here when you felt that the time was right. Speak to the value of building a strong network and also collaborating with people.
I don't think that it was a purposeful goal in my life. I think it's just something that I learned. My early professional career, I was in human resources and moved into recruiting and staffing at the same time that I was community organizing. So in both of those arenas, I was required to do outreach, to find people and communicate with them and get them to take action, whether it be, sign a petition or join our efforts, come to our meeting, spread the word about this cause, or in my professional life, I'm looking for somebody who can do this kind of a job, or approaching employers, let me be your consultant and find your next candidate for the job that you're trying to fill. So all of those functions are actually the same. It's just different scripts, if you will.
Right.
And I think it just it just continued from there. My leisure activity, whenever I have ever taken a break, was always live music. So as far back as I can remember, I've been friends with musicians, and somewhere along the way, I moved into really applying my skills in this realm. And the reason being is that all of my friends were saying to me, hey, all this, networking and managing and things that you do, why don't you do it for me? And my answer was always someday. And well, eventually someday happened. And now it's been 10 years where that very specifically is where I've been focusing my efforts. And same thing, trying to advocate for local musicians and to put some processes in place and, put some administrative muscle behind what they're trying to do with their creative efforts.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So way back when I was still doing 9 to 5, I was driving by this drum school, and I would always see the sign of Seattle Drum School, and I always said I have to go there one day, but I never found a strong reason to actually come. I always wanted to learn more music, play more music instruments. And then I met you at Folklife when I was serving on the board, and I was emceeing one of the events a few years ago, I think 2 years ago now. So after we talked that day, I was like, finally, I have a reason to actually go there and figure out how I can partner, And I just feel like that was one of my greatest days, because since then, I've just been more focused, and I've been, when you're doing something like Madaraka Festival, having a base is really important. And so I feel like this has been a very big base for me. But I also feel that you've collaborated with me in a way that works for me, works for my community. And I want you to just speak about why supporting people like me is important to you.
Well, let me just, throw some compliments and admiration your way, because you and I have been familiar with each other for a good handful of years. When we reconnected a couple of years ago at Folk Life, it was that we each had, a little different angle to the conversation than the ones that we had previously, where I was representing other organizations at that time. I think what you're doing with Madaraka Festival, and just the volume of communication and efforts and organization that it takes, not only to do what you're doing locally, but internationally, it's very impressive. And it has music and arts at the heart of it. And I also had attended some earlier Madaraka festivals because I had friends who were playing in it. So therefore, it was a cool thing to do. And, I have the in my heart to support nonprofits and their efforts. So all of that just ties in. And so I'm really glad that you all get to be here and be part of the Cool Kids Club and bring this fantastic music into the space on a regular basis, and that we're able to provide that home for you as you continue to grow and expand. I mean, the number of shows that you all had across the country last year, how many was it?
6.
Wow.
6, yeah. And this year we're about to go crazy. You don't even want to talk about it.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. This year, in May, June, we are doing 13 cities, And then July and August, we are doing 13 to 15 cities. And then October and November, we are doing another 13 to 15 cities. So this is our 10th year anniversary. So we are just really, of course, taking advantage of that. It's a big milestone, but also asserting ourselves and pushing ourselves the hardest so that we see, is this going to kill us, And then we are also testing our capacity to do Madaraka Festival during the World Cup, which is coming to the US in 2026. And that means we will be required to do it in multiple cities very fast, and we might do like 100 shows in like 3 months, So now this year we want to try and do like 50 shows in a year,
Wow.
Yeah, so we are trying to function at the highest level possible, and we are also the primary platform for like the major East African artists. They don't have even a system for touring the US. And so Madaraka is the primary platform for some of the biggest East African artists with millions and millions of, Spotify streams. If they do their events in East Africa, they attract like 20,000+ people. But the US is a market that they have some of the highest streams here, but they don't know how to tap into the touring, circuit in the US. And so we are finally serving that purpose and figuring out how to do it right. And, just having a space like this and having someone like you who says, okay, come and figure it out here, is so great,
That is so awesome.
Yeah. So we are working really hard, and it's just good to be grounded knowing that, okay, if we need to have any meetings, if we need to have any rehearsals, if we need to produce the podcast, we know where to go, and that takes a lot of thinking and stress, from me personally and from a lot of the people involved with Madaraka, and a lot of people, Madaraka is becoming synonymous with the drum school, because of how frequent we show up here, how like all episodes I talk about the drum school, so we want to give as much as we get,
Right on.
Yeah.
Last year you sold out Benaroya Hall, which is what, 1,800 capacity?
2,500.
2,000. Okay, see, I was completely wrong. But yeah, I went. It was just a swarm of people just grooving to that music. It was really powerful.
Yeah, man. We a lot of people are telling me, and it's humbling, and that's why I feel like I can't stop. A lot of people come back and tell you, when things are so challenging, you're reminded of the impact that you're making, and then you're like, okay, I need to keep going, And
I relate entirely.
Yeah.
I'm not doing, I'm not selling out Benaroya, but, I still feel like I'm helping to elevate the community, and therefore all of my efforts are worthwhile.
Totally. And, besides us, I know that the Seattle Symphony sometimes rehearses here. I know that a lot of touring artists also rehearse here. Speak to some of the most profound, moments you've had working here, and I know that Aaron Jones also rehearses here sometime. Yeah, so paint a picture for those who have never been here, and what they're missing.
Okay. Well, Aaron Jones, who is actually currently in France, his bassist is the first instructor that was hired at this school when it was opened 15 years ago, Bob Lovelace.
Wow.
So as I mentioned, the space has always been used for rehearsals. Just now they have to actually coordinate them with me because I have it booked so much.
Right.
So talk to you about profound. I think every event that happens in here, it's important to the people who are hosting it.
Right.
My most profound moments, I would say, really have to be when we're doing our own curation and we're showcasing youth musicians.
Right.
Because, we're planting the seeds and we're continuing that legacy of them saying, the Seattle Drum School is the first place that I ever performed.
Right.
I love that. And now we've got, we've upgraded technology and we're able to live stream and produce some content for these youth. So we're really, really part of their musical legacy now. So, that's just pretty important. Yesterday we had the Polyrhythmics coming in, and they were rehearsing, and, they're a nationally touring group. We host the Blues to Do podcast Sundays at 1 p.m., and that's part of a decades-long legacy by Marley Walker, who had roots in radio and then hosted a public access TV show for a very long time, and for 20 years produced a monthly magazine, Blues to Do, where you could get news and find out calendar items. And now, same thing, she's stepping up to the new day and age and podcasting all of that content. And I don't know if your cameras can catch it, but on the wall we have basically museum quality museum pieces, in that we have the roof and the trunk, or the hood and the trunk of her old bluesmobile, her Cadillac, that she drove around to blues festivals and got all of the performers backstage to sign her car. And eventually, when the car died, those were the two parts that she was able to salvage. And now they're mounted on our wall so that we get to preserve that legacy.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, as you walk around this building, you see such things, but also, you see that tiny desk that we used for our tiny desk contest recording, and I just love that. Now we are coming close to the end of our conversation today, and I just want you to look at this camera and share 3 tips for those who are considering organizing events like Madaraka Festival. Many people have been asking me, Simon, you've done this for 10 years. How have you done it? You know, you've done Madaraka Festival for 10 years. How have you done it? And so instead of me answering those questions, I ask my guests to share their tips, their experiences, because similar to me, you've been a part of producing your own events. You've also been to many other events. And so speak to that camera and share 3 tips.
I think the tips actually would change depending on who you're talking to. I think planning out, making sure you have a good team, making sure that everybody's on the same page, putting things in writing, following up with verbal communication, because sometimes people don't read all of the fine print. You want to make sure that you have a clear understanding of what everybody's role and responsibility is and what the expectations are, and remain consistent with that throughout the process. And I think that's just advice that applies to everybody, no matter what level or what angle that they are coming from when it comes to organizing events.
I love that. Thank you all for joining us for this beautiful conversation with KZ, who is an incredible leader and is one of the forces that continues to grow the Seattle Drum School of Music here in Seattle. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and go in the description section below if you want to learn more about the Seattle Drum School. We will add more information down there for you. KZ, as we are wrapping up, I want you to also just share with us first of all, before you share your closing comments, I also want you to look at this camera and just tell our viewers to please subscribe to Madaraka Festival podcast on YouTube. So say, hi, my name is so-and-so, subscribe to Madaraka Podcast on YouTube. That camera.
Hey, it's KZ, and please subscribe to the Madaraka Festival podcast on YouTube.
Perfect. Great. So as we are closing, what are some of the things that you want to share with us in closing?
Well, I didn't come with a list of items that I wanted to cover. Any suggestions?
Well, what are some of the things that I think the things that people should look out for in regards to the drum school? What are some of the exciting things that people should look out for in terms of the Seattle Drum School?
For sure. So the Seattle Drum School is still aiming to grow on its legacy. So we're continuing to host all kinds of different types of events. We're adding more group classes to our roster. We just announced summer band camps, which has become a really fun mainstay of our summers, where we have groups of kids come in and play from 9 to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday, and then Friday afternoon they do a performance with what they've learned over the week. So it's like a party every week. That's pretty cool. We just finally revealed our new logo. So it's a reworking of the old logo. So it now actually says Seattle Drum School of Music. This is not the new logo. This is the old logo.
Yeah.
But you can see the Space Needle hi-hat. So that is still a key part of the logo. But now underneath it will say of music. So we have new T-shirts coming soon. Stay tuned. Yeah, and we'd like to really grow our youth music showcase, which we launched about a year and a half ago, and it's been second Sundays at 6. But after some feedback from parents, it's a little too late for some of their young musicians or for some of their siblings. So the parents have been voting for it to be earlier in the day. So starting March of 2024, it will be second Sundays at 3.
I love that.
And what that means is any youth group with at least one member under 21, so we've had some family acts in, can be the featured artist, and then we share any donations with the featured artist. And then we added open mic. So if you are under 21 and you're looking for an opportunity to come perform and work out your material, you are welcome here. But then super exciting is we now have youth Mojams. And so that's building on the 10-year legacy of Mojam Mondays, which is for the 21 and up crowd every week at Nectar Lounge in Fremont. And it is where musicians come together to find each other. It's a creative space, 100% improvised music. So it has become a community hub, and our second Sundays event aims to become that for the younger set.
I love that. I've been to Mojam. I've played at Mojam recently, and it was so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you, KZ, for making the time for our conversation today. This is something I've been really looking forward to. And to our viewers who are joining us online, thank you again for making the time. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And to my producer, Jay Codes, thank you again for the incredible work that you do.
And follow Seattle Drum School on all the things.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Peace and love.
Thanks, Simon.
Of course.